This video will show how we can solve systems of equations using the elimination method. And we will utilize the standard form equation, ax plus by equals c. And we will have two of these equations. And what we will decide is either to eliminate the y variable or eliminate the x variable. So our goal is to make the coefficients of x either the same or different signs. Now, if the signs are the same, then we would subtract. And if the signs were different, like a negative b plus b, then we would add those together to go to 0. So the whole point of elimination is to have one term eliminated so we can solve for the other term. So let's look at our first context problem. Landscape company placed 2 orders with a nursery. The first order is with bushes and trees. So we're going to say x is bushes and y would be trees. So our first equation will be 13x plus 4y is equal to 487. And the second equation will be 6x coming from the 6 bushes plus the 2 trees is equal to 232. So our idea and our goal is to figure out the cost of 1 bushel and 1 tree. So with this, you start to analyze your equations and you start to look at the coefficients. Well, this is 13 and this one's 6. 6 times 2 is 12. It's not quite 13. However, I've got 4 and 2. So you're basically looking for the lowest common multiple. And here, I can multiply this equation by 2. But what I would have is this would be a positive 4 once I multiply it. So since they're both positives, what I'm going to do is multiply the second equation by a negative 2. So what I'm going to have is 13x plus 4y is equal to 487. And then I'm going to distribute the 2 to every term. So that'll be negative 12x minus 4y equals negative 232. So now I'm going to add those together. So that's going to leave me with 1x. And this will eliminate and go to 0 because positive 4y and negative 4y would go to 0. And then I'm going to be, this should be 464. So let me erase that. That 2 times 232 is negative 464. So that makes a difference here with this. So the difference would be 23. So we say x is 23. So now that I know that x is 23, I know that it's going to be part of my solution. I got to find out what y is. So I'm going to substitute x of 23 either here or here into the equation. It doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to take the second equation, which will be 6 times 23 plus 2 times y equals 232. And so now it's just compute 23 times 6 is 138 plus 2y is equal to 232. And then I'm going to take 232 and I'm going to subtract 138. And I'm going to get 2y is equal to 94. And when I divide by 2, I'm going to get y is 47. So up here in my solution, I've got 23 comma 47. Now what does that mean? That means there's 23 bushes, or the cost of the bushes were $23, cost of the trees were $47. Next problem, I've got a coffee shop that I'm dealing with. So I've got packages of coffee and tea. So 18 packages of coffee. There's 32 packages of tea. So I'm going to call X coffee and Y would be tea. So my first equation would be 18x plus 32y equals a total of 304. And then my second equation will be 31x plus 14y is equal to the other total, which would be 318. So 18 and 31, 32 and 14, there's not a small number here. So what I'm going to do is just multiply this bottom equation by negative 32 and the top equation by positive 14. So what I've done is I've elected to eliminate the y value. So I've got to distribute the 14 to everything and the negative 32 to all terms. So I'm going to get 252x plus 448y is equal to 4,256. Second equation will be negative 992x minus 448y equal to negative 10,176. So again, why did I choose to multiply the top equation by positive 14 and the bottom equation by negative 32? It's because the signs were the same. So that would cause this to be one positive, one negative. So when I go to add the equations together, that eliminates and goes to 0. This would be 740x is equal to, when I add these together, I get 5,920. So I'm going to divide by 740, negative 740, and I'm going to get x is 8. So over here I've got 8 comma something else. So I'm going to go back and substitute. And let's find y. So I'm going to say 31 times 8 plus 14 times y is equal to 318. 31 times 8, that's 248, plus 14y is equal to 318. So 318 minus 248 is 70. 14y equals 70. 70 divided by 14 would be 5. So I've got 5, I've got 8. There's my solution, and it means something in the problem. So how much does each packet cost? Well, coffee packages cost $8 per, and the tea packages cost $5. This problem looks at total investment. A total of $12,000 is invested into two funds. The two funds pay out at two different percentages. So I'm going to call X equal the 9% and Y equal the 11%. So I just don't know how much is invested at either one, the 11% and the 9%. So I'm going to say X plus Y is equal to 12,000. And I'm going to write the percentage, 9% X plus 11% Y is equal to 1,180. So I'm going to choose to eliminate the X variable. So I'm going to multiply by negative 900ths and distribute that to everything. So should get negative 900ths X minus 900ths Y is equal to negative 1,080. And I ran out of room. So I'm going to come down here and write that. So it'd be negative 900ths X minus 900ths Y said was equal to negative 1,080. And then I'm just going to rewrite the second equation. And now that I'm going to add those, I said I was going to eliminate X. Notice the signs are different, so I can add those together, and that'll go to a zero pair. And this would be 200ths Y. And that should be 100. So Y should be, when I take 100 and divide it by 500ths, I should get 2,000. So this 100 divided by 200ths should be X equal 5,000. So that means there was 5,000 invested in the X, or at the 9% rate. And then just need to go back and substitute in, since I know that this is 5,000, so 5,000 plus something equals 12,000. So Y would equal to 7,000. So 5,000, comma, 7,000 would be your solution, because it was $5,000 invested at the 9%, 7,000 invested in the 11%. Another similar problem is Hakeem invested $7,500. So X plus Y would equal 7,500. And we're going to call X 18%. We're going to call Y the 9%. And so we know that 18% of whatever X was plus the 9% of whatever Y would be would give us $774 interest earned. So now just need to decide which variable to eliminate. And so I'm going to eliminate X, which means I'm going to multiply, since this is a positive 1800ths, I'm going to multiply by negative 1800ths. So negative 1800ths X minus 18 hundredths y will equal to negative 1,350. And then I'm just going to rewrite the original one. And now I can add them together. The coefficients are opposite signs, so that goes to 0. And I'm left with 9 hundredths y. And I add these together, and I get negative 576. So I divide by negative 9 hundredths, and I get y is equal to 6,400. And so 6,400 take away from 7,500, and you'll get 1,100. So 1,100, comma 6,400 would be the solution to this system, because it means that $1,100 was invested at 18%, 6,400 was invested at the 9%. So we've got an exam worth 145 points containing 50 questions. So x plus y would equal 50 questions. Some of the questions are worth 2 points, so we're going to say x would be the 2-point questions, y would be the 5-point questions. So we'll say 2x plus 5y is equal to how many total points the test is worth? It's worth 145. So I'm going to decide to I'm going to eliminate x again. So I'm going to multiply by negative 2. So that's negative 2x minus 2y equal negative 100. 2x plus 5y is equal to 145. So when I add those together, that goes to 0. And this is just 5y, so negative 2y plus 5y is 3y. And this would be 45. So it means y is 15. So since y is 15, I'm just going to substitute back up here. And so x plus 15 equals 50. So x would be 35. So what does that mean? All right, so 35 comma 15 is the solution. There's 35 2-point questions, and there's 15 5-point questions. This next problem, Ken has 25 coins total. So we'll say x plus y is 25. So what's x going to represent? Well, we'll say it represents the nickels, and y would represent the dimes. So suppose Ken has 25 coins, so 5 nickels, or excuse me, 5 hundredths x plus 10 hundredths y is equal to $1.65. So I'm just going to eliminate x again, and I'm going to multiply it by negative 5 hundredths. That'll give me negative 5 hundredths x minus 5 hundredths y equal negative 1 and 25 hundredths. We'll rewrite the second equation. I did not manipulate the second equation, so just rewriting it. And since I said I was going to eliminate the x variable, and I arranged it to where it was positive and negative, so that goes to 0. And this would be 5 hundredths y is equal to 40 hundredths. So when I divide by 5 hundredths, y is going to equal 8. So since y equals 8, just going to substitute right back here. So I get x plus 8 is equal to 25, so x has to be 17. So 17 comma 8 would be the solution to this particular problem, which talks about how much of each coin does he have. He's got 17 nickels and 8 dimes. Now the last couple are just more practice without context. So you look at your system and you decide which one you want to eliminate. So I'm going to multiply this one by positive 2 to get to negative 12. And I'm going to multiply this and negative 3 to get to positive 12. So this will give me 12x plus 32y equal to negative 44. And the bottom equation will be positive 12x negative 12x. Let's see, this should have been, what did I decide to eliminate? X's. So this would be a negative 12. This would be a positive 12. So this would be a positive 33y. This should be a negative 32. That's where a copy error. So this will be negative 2 times negative 6, negative 12y. 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. 2 times 22 is a positive 44. And here would be negative and negative, so it's positive, negative and negative, that's positive, and then I get negative 45. So when I add these, I do eliminate the x. I get y is equal to negative 1. Since y is equal to negative 1, I'm just going to go back and substitute. So 4x plus 11 is equal to 15. So I'm going to subtract the 11 from 15. I get negative 4x is 4, so x has to be negative 1. So your solution is negative 1, negative 1. So we'll look at one more. And remember what your goal is. Your goal is to eliminate either x or y. And I can't multiply 3 by anything to make it 8, and I can't multiply 8 by anything to, so whole number that is. So what I'm going to do is multiply the second equation here by 2 and just rewrite the first equation. So the second equation would be negative 10x plus 6y is equal to negative 18. So when I add those together, that eliminates, and I get negative 2y is equal to negative 14, so y is 7. So I'm just going to go back up here, say 10x minus 56, which would be 8 times 7 is 56 equals 4. I'm going to add 56, and I get 10x equals 60, so x has to be 6. So 60 comma 7 is the solution. So just to recap, remember you want to try to eliminate a variable and you pick which one. So since I could multiply negative 5 by 2 to give me the same numbers, just one's positive, one's negative, that will allow me to eliminate a variable. And then once I solve for that lone variable, then I take that, for instance, y equals 7, and I substitute it back into the equation to find the x.